Good morning. The research I'm presenting today is the study and analysis on security of ad-hoc networks. This was done as per the curriculum here at KDRS by myself and supervisor being Dr. Weerawardane. First, looking at what ad-hoc network is. An ad-hoc network is a wireless network with dynamic and temporary topologies which does not have any centralized structures. Nodes in mobile ad-hoc networks are free to leave and join the network when needed. Therefore, conventional protection methods used in traditional networks cannot be used in ad-hoc networks due to lack of centralized structures, constantly changing topologies, and due to restricted power, because most of these devices nodes are battery powered, and because ad-hoc networks are highly scalable compared to fixed networks. And these are the outcomes of the research. We identify weaknesses in mobile ad-hoc networks, identify attacks that can be performed, identify weaknesses in various protection schemes, and identify new weaknesses created by when implementing these protection schemes, and analyze and describe new techniques that are still in development stage, and point out potential research areas in this field. Looking at the findings and analysis, vulnerabilities of ad-hoc networks are listed here. Lack of secure boundaries, that is you don't need physical access to the network. Most of these are wireless, like ad-hoc networks are wireless networks, and threats from compromised nodes inside the network is hard to detect because packet losses and unavailability are normal in these networks. Lack of centralized management facility. Without centralized structures, it's difficult to implement certificate authorities and IDSs, that is intrusion detection systems. And fourth one is restricted power supply, and finally scalability. Looking at the attacks in mobile ad-hoc networks, we can see denial of service attacks, impersonation attacks, eavesdropping, trust attacks, and looking at attacks against routing, we get backdoor routers, grey hole routers, resource extortion, man-in-the-middle attacks, and wormhole. Now looking at denial of service attacks, it's carried out by flooding a node with some kind of network traffic so as to exhaust the target. In mobile ad-hoc networks, an attacker can exploit this limited battery, less processing power, therefore easy to exhaust the target, and the radio communication. You can use jamming. Looking at impersonation attacks, it's a user claims to be someone else. That's what it says. A good authentication mechanism can prevent this. But it's difficult to implement authentication mechanisms due to lack of centralized structures in ad-hoc networks. Another attack is eavesdropping. It's acquiring confidential information that must be kept secret due to communication. Encryption and authorization mechanisms must be in place to avoid this. Trust attacks is similar to impersonation attacks, but rather than identify itself as a different entity, a node, it identifies itself as having a different, certain trust level it does not have. Now, if we look at attacks against routing, there are black hole routers. These routers refrain from forwarding packets. That is, this can be done by either as an attack, or it can be due to the selfishness of the node. That is, the node can not forward packets because it wants to conserve battery power or things like that. Or it can be performed as a denial of service attack, where the attacker claims to have the shortest path to a certain destination, and when it is selected as a route, it does not forward the packet. Grey hole routers are similar to black hole routers, but it selectively drops packets. In black hole routers, it drops all the packets it gets. In grey hole routers, it selectively drops packets, therefore it's difficult to detect. And resource explosion can be done by flooding the network with routing messages, that is route request messages, or the attacker can use fake route request messages and route response messages to create routing loops in the network. Looking at man-in-the-middle attack, attackers try to here the attacker try to come between the communication parties, then it can perform eavesdropping or denial of service attacks. And in wormhole attacks, there are two attackers. One record packets at a particular location, and the other one replace the recorded packets, confusing the whole network. The packet between attackers are transferred using a high-speed private network, and these can be used for route hijacking for man-in-the-middle attacks or as grey hole and black hole routers. These are some of the issues we found in some of the routing protocols used in mobile ad-hoc networks. Looking at the security measures designed for mobile ad-hoc networks, first we'll look at key management. Key management is a solution for most of the problems. It can be used to mitigate impersonations and trust attacks. But additional key management systems are difficult to implement in mobile ad-hoc networks because they are CPU intensive, and you don't have centralized structures in ad-hoc networks. One solution for this is this distributed asynchronous key management service. Here every node has a public and private key. The public key is known to all the nodes, and the private key is divided into a number of shares, and a share is given for each server. Therefore, each server can create a partial signature of the message, and when using a combining entity, you can combine n number of these partial messages to generate a signed message. This diagram explains the process. They have allowed less than n number of entities to create a signature because in ad-hoc networks the unavailability of nodes is a normal thing. And looking at progressive trust negotiation scheme, it has two models, peer-to-peer component and remote component. Here the symmetric key is negotiated between a peer-to-peer component first only in one hop, and the symmetric encryption key is negotiated between the nodes. This is used to prevent external attackers from eavesdropping. And in the remote component, end-to-end key is negotiated between the end-to-end communicating nodes. This protects the communication against internal eavesdropping. And looking at intrusion detection systems available for mobile ad-hoc networks, first there's watchdog. Here, when the node forwards a packet, the watchdog ensures that the recipient of the packet also forwards the received packet. The limitations of this are it's unable to detect misbehaviors in presence of ambiguous collisions and receiver collision. And also, watchdog can detect only single node at a time. May not be able to detect coordinated attacks. In this scheme, every node is looking for malicious nodes, therefore it has high power consumption. There's another model called path rater. Here, the path rater avoids routing packets from misbehaving nodes. The limitation is it avoids misbehaving nodes, but it does not penalize them. So a selfish node can act as in a selfish manner, but without any consequence. To address this, they have come up with another intrusion detection system called Confident IDS. It's similar to Watchdog and Pathfinder, but it penalizes misbehaving nodes. Issues with these are it doesn't prevent false report, therefore it can be exploited by an attacker to commit DOS attack. And it does not take into account whether the node is acting selfishly due to genuine reasons. Because in a mobile ad-hoc network you have low battery power and things like that. Therefore, some nodes must be allowed to conserve its battery usage if it's in a low battery state. And it also has high power consumption because every node is looking for malicious activity. And there's another scheme called cluster-based intrusion detection system. Here one node is looking for malicious behavior in a cluster of a group of nodes. Theoretically should allow better power consumption, but it is criticized in some papers stating that the power consumption is not low because you need handovers and other schemes for this to be in place. And it's better at identifying malicious behavior because it gets a bigger picture of that cluster rather than individual nodes looking for misbehaviors. And another issue with this is if an attacker gets elected as the head of the cluster, it can, until re-election, it can perform its malicious activities. And other methods used to secure mobile ad-hoc networks are security-aware ad-hoc routing protocol. This is primarily designed to defend against black hole routers. SAR only detect routes with guarantee of security, and it tries to build a route comprising of same trust level nodes. One issue with this is it avoids higher trust level nodes, which is undesirable because in this it has one shared key per trust level, so only a route can be made only with similar trust level nodes. There's another protocol called SEED, secure routing protocol based on DSD-BSD, which is a secure routing protocol available. It uses destination sequence numbers to provide replay protection to routing updates, and it avoids routing loops. But in BSD it has a settling time delay which is not used in this SEED. Therefore, it's not able to avoid wormhole attacks. And the other issues being routing loops are possible in this routing protocol if there are more than one attack. And current versions cannot detect black hole and grey hole routers. There are other new schemes still in development called TRA. It's a technique for intrusion detection in ad-hoc routing algorithms. It addresses DOS attacks, improve availability of services during attack, but it's still in development state. Another such scheme is grammatical evolution approach to intrusion detection. It uses artificial intelligence-based learning techniques to detect malicious behavior. And this method can detect known attacks, but it's still in development stage as well. And another scheme is available called anomaly-based detection. This also uses artificial intelligence-based detection systems, and it's capable of detecting double attacks as well. And these are the potential research areas we've identified required to identify systems that can deal with all possible threats and vulnerabilities of ad-hoc networks. And there are issues with cluster detection, cluster-based IDSs. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kuruppu. Now we can take the questions.
Now, looking at your paper, I cannot understand what your contribution is. You analyzed something. Now, is there any conclusions from that?
So this was a survey paper.
Yeah, but once you survey number of methods, Do you have any conclusions or you have analyzed it?
It was done to identify the security unsecured why vulnerabilities in current state of ad-hoc networks, and to point out areas that we have to give our attention to make this network secure.
So, we are only pointing out, we are not giving a solution to any of those.
No, sir, I'm pointing out the current state of in the security aspect, the current state of ad-hoc networks, and what are the vulnerabilities available in this.
Yeah, now after an extensive survey, what I think is if we impose the security on markets, the very concept of ad hoc, it is basically an ad hoc network, so the very concept of ad hoc will be lost. So, what do you recommend after your study to basically keep the balance between the ad hoc concept and security? So, what do you recommend the best measure of security for these markets?
Network, the primary difference is nodes must be able to it has a dynamic topology, and nodes must be able to give and enter the network as it wants. Therefore we can't use normal traditional security schemes available for normal networks, such as certificate authorities and public key, private key, encryption, those things. Therefore, some techniques, like I showed you, distributed asynchronous key management service have been developed, which while keeping that ad hoc nature of the network, it provides security as well. So we have to go for such schemes. We have to go for schemes that doesn't compromise the fact that
what I mean was basically once you impose the security, the freedom will be lost. Ad hoc nature will be lost.
So, what do you expect now? Then even the promiscuous mode, it is not a possibility when you say ad hoc. It's a vast network. So, what is the generic? What do you think the best way of securing this? After your findings, what do you recommend? The best approach?
That is, you have to go for techniques which allow both the ad hoc nature and while giving security. In this particular key management service, they have now in a normal ad hoc network, you can't use certification authorities because there are no centralized structures. All are have similar nodes. So in this particular scheme, they have without having a single certification authority, they have used a set of servers. Those are a set of normal nodes in an ad hoc network, and they have divided the private key into different into parts and distributed among these servers. So let's say in an ad hoc network, the nodes they come and go. So even if all the servers aren't available, still the network would be able to function and provide that security. So we have to go for newer protection schemes which doesn't compromise the ad hoc network.
That is understood. What is your recommendation?
That is, you have to go for these sort of security schemes. You can't implement the normal ones which rely on centralized ones.
Okay, thank you very much. We see the dilemma of this problem. We have to allow anybody to enter the network, but we have to find mechanisms to stop him or her using the facilities to damage something. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kuruppu.